My name is Sari van Pooijen. I'm the director of Intact Academy and of Team Agility. In Intact Academy, we train coaches and consultants from beginner to advanced, from executive coach to team coach to business coach. You can find us online. All our programs are online, but we also train in 8 different countries in Europe. For Team Agility, we help businesses innovate their business more quickly than their products, because else you'll always be too late on the market. I've been doing that for 35 years before it became a trend word, and I encourage you to look at the website www.teamagility.com. So we're talking about membership, and we talked about the different levels of membership and the different types of membership. And now I really want to talk about, why do we even become members? You know, when I look now in the circumstances, some people, during COVID times, some people feel really well on their own, and some people are slowly going nuts on their own and really need a group around them. And they're missing out on membership. You can imagine, you know, this very basic sense of membership when you're very little. What babies do is they look at mother's eyes, and actually through a screen, that's really difficult to do. So this primal sense of belonging and membership, of looking into someone's eyes, is what we're missing at the moment. And so many people feel deprived. The question is, you know, what is that type of deprivation? Why do some people want to become members and not, even if at a biological level we need membership to survive? Membership, this contact with other people, stimulates our bodies, our brains. Alzheimer goes more quickly if people are in isolation. There's a reason for that. Human beings are social animals. And yet, even if we're programmed that way, and we know that we need that, I can see a vast difference, for instance, between my brother and me. We grew up in the same nest, as it were, moving countries at the same time, as it were, and yet I live in the middle of society. My brother lives on a mountain in California at 1,800 meters, with his dog and his grand piano. That's basically it. It's not a judgment call. I'm happy, he's happy. And yet, we were both born with a membership instinct because we're social animals. So I'm really curious about why people want to become members. Why? What is that? And we've got a lot of research on that. Many people look at it, from Freud to Edmund to Bowlby. We all looked at why people become members. What is that attachment need to other people? Actually, I would say there are 2 basic reasons we become members. One is because of survival, and the other is because we have psychological and biological needs. And I want to talk about both types of need for membership, because it might help you think about, why am I a member, and is there a way I can meet my need more directly? Okay, that's the reason I'm saying this. So let's talk about survival needs first. So we know that babies that are deprived of close human contact actually have higher mortality rates. You just have to read Bowlby and you know that. We know that humans are predisposed to form close, strong attachments. And partly that's evolutionary. You know, a human being, before 75% of the wild animals were extinct, we were in the minority in a world of animals and nature and everything that goes with that. Surviving on your own is much more difficult than surviving in a group. And so, based on evolution, we needed groups to be able to survive. That makes sense. And part of that is still in our reptile brain, that we survive more in a group than we do on our own. And now, especially in COVID time, the question is, you know, would you be able to survive on your own, or do we need a group? And this is a very difficult thing, because in the group you have more risk of infection, but without the group you have less chance of survival. And so part of the reason people are so tired is because they feel split in their survival needs, is my assumption. And I meet a lot of people who are very tired at the moment. We also have psychological needs. You know, being a member of a group satisfies our basic psychological needs, such as a sense of belonging, a protection from harm, acceptance. Groups later in life replace the original family group. And a group is more than two people. So if you grew up in a one-person, one-parent household, actually you were together, or with your siblings, certainly you were a system. And you learned group affiliation within that system. And that colors all your later group membership. Sometimes in my training groups, I have people who tell me, I really want to do your training, but I'm scared of groups. And I always am really curious about, what happened in your early affiliation in a group, in your first real experience of group in family that makes you scared of groups at the moment. And that's a really important question, because it also answers how much of your psychological needs are being met, and can we repair it? Because that's where I am. I'm like a positive psychologist. I always look at how can we repair it? How can you repair it in daily life? These psychological needs, really, we can split them into different types of needs. So we have a need for affiliation. We need to be in relationship. McClelland wrote a lot about that. If you look at his book, McClelland 1985, you can read about that. There's a need for power. Now that's interesting. So when you become a member of a group, you're also part of the structure of a group, and that means the hierarchy determines the power you have. And we do have a need for power. Really, that becomes a need for power in later life. When you're a baby, it's a need for impact. So if a baby goes boo and it sees a parent go ah like this, even playfully, they get a sense of their impact on other people. And that sense of, I would prefer to redefine the need for power to a need for impact, because the need for impact links directly to purpose. Need for power doesn't. Need for power is something that's empty. Actually, when you meet your need for power, you haven't fulfilled your basic need for impact a lot of the time. So that's a different story, but it's a really interesting story. We also have a need for information. It sounds really strange. These are all grown-up needs later. But if you're on your own, nowadays, perhaps you can get a lot of information from Google, but information is not the same thing as knowledge. To turn information into knowledge, you need relationship. Because only in that relationship can you see what is relevant, what is important, what is impactful. We get from computers, Google, we get information, but it's not knowledge. And there really often there's a confusion with people. But in any case, we affiliate with groups because we have a need for knowledge. I would like to change that. It's not a need for information. The other reason we become members of groups is, it's almost like a negative, you don't want to feel lonely. Let me put it that way. So a lot of people have, there's a big difference between being solitary and being lonely. So being solitary is a regenerative need. So sometimes people withdraw to regenerate, and then you're in solitude. You can commune with nature, like my brother does on his mountain in California, and be completely regenerated and in solitude. It's a regenerative need. That's necessary in groups as well. But sometimes people also have a need to belong to a group because they can't be in solitude. Let's face it. At the moment with COVID, a lot of people are lonely, and some people can deal with it much better than others. Lonely because their need for affiliation isn't being met. Now the question is, are there other ways? So what we know is we have very fundamental biological, survival, and psychological needs to belong to a group. There are differences between people, how much they want to belong and how much they don't want to belong. Partly that has to do with their early experiences of group. Partly it's also biological. I really believe that some people have more need for affiliation than others. So the question really is, what need do you have in a group? You know, what is it that you're looking for in terms of needs? Are there ways you can meet these needs better? So, for instance, my mother is in a care home at the moment. She was in complete lockdown. I wasn't allowed to visit her, and she wasn't even allowed to have coffee with people in her house. So basically, I think that's a form of social cruelty, to be sure. I saw her memory go back, worsen as COVID went on, because biologically, we need social stimulation to fire our synapses as well. So I was thinking of her need for group and affiliation and contact. And what we decided on together is that while I'm working, I keep my FaceTime on. And she's doing her crossword puzzles, I'm doing my work, and now and then we speak to each other. But for her, I'm in the room with her. And I know, and I can see her memory has improved again because of it. So my encouragement to you is to ask yourself, what need do I have in a group? How can I meet that need in a better way than I'm doing now?